You're the first person I've met who's been able to make a living off of anime, starting Otaku Detroit in 2020. You embarked on entrepreneurship with one mission: bring people together in a fun environment where community is more important than customers. Terry Alexander, the co-founder. I can't wait to talk about the accolades you and your team have accomplished. But first, what's your story?
All right. So, like you said, I'm not necessarily the founder of Otaku Detroit. So what it was, my business partner Matt, he
Okay.
opened the store, initially with another person.
Yeah.
I started pretty much as a customer for the first few months that the shop was open.
Wow.
I was there just as support. We didn't really have a lot of anime stores in the Metro Detroit area at all. We
Yeah.
used to have one in Detroit a long time ago that didn't, get the success that it deserved.
Really?
So I just was excited to have something that was near me that I can go to buy anime stuff. So I was going there a lot to where, I was cool with Matt. We became, cool. I was a regular customer. He knew me by name. And it worked out to where, I was going there so much. And I'm like, hey, if you ever need help with anything, like, something else, like, I'll be more than happy to help out.
Yeah.
And it started for me, like, helping out, running the shop on the weekends to where honestly, the opportunity presented myself to, actually have a legitimate stake in the business. So, me, Matt, and my fiance Angelo, the three of us, own it together legally on paper. So now I don't. When I say that I'm an owner, part owner, I mean that. Like, I literally am. So that's kind of how it goes. So, like, pro tip: if you want to get a job somewhere, just show up and just start helping them. No, but honestly, that's kind of how it started with because like Matt is cool. He actually had an anime store a while back in Berkeley called I believe it was called Anime Otaku. I didn't know about that at the time. I don't know. I don't remember how long it was, but a few customers we have now remember Matt from that store he had in Berkeley a while back.
Yeah.
So he's used to running a business in that aspect. So I think that's why our relationship works out. Because I don't have experience running a business, like, other than like, stuff here and there. So that was something with his knowledge of like, running the day to day and, stuff like that. And with me and Angelo, our knowledge of anime did exceed his. Cause like he does it. I'm not, questioning his intentions, but, he just knows that the money can be made from there. But he knows a good amount. He knows enough about anime. But I feel like, when it comes to like, the knowledge and like, how we enjoy anime, I think that's kind of where, we haven't beat there. But I think that's why it works, because he can work on, the operations and business, until, I get to that point.
Absolutely.
And we can worry about, making sure that we have everything we, the anime, what's good right now, what are people talking about, what sells. So that's really how it started. We, the store opened like right before the pandemic. It was a little bit, with the lockdown, it was kind of scary because like, with people not being able to go anywhere.
I'm sure.
So it just, things were kind of touch and go at the beginning. But honestly, with the way that the community, and our customer base has helped us a lot, I think that's part of why we made it through the pandemic. Because, they always say that, that statistic that a lot of businesses don't even make it past a year. We're going on 4 years now.
Congrats.
Thank you. And I can honestly say 100% because of our community and the relationships that we built with our customers and friends, that is what made us, make it through this far.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I respect that, man. It sounds to me like you guys feel like a real team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's even better, and it's perfect that he is the business-minded, and you guys do know more about anime because that helps the cause. There's probably stuff he doesn't have to focus on so much. There's things you guys focus on, you know what I'm saying? And vice versa, where you guys can flow like that. Going back to that pandemic a little bit, man, what was that experience like for you in the shop?
It was crazy because it was something that like I said, I didn't even have knowledge of as far as like, how to like run a day-to-day business, but then to throw in like these, procedures and things you had to do for COVID. It wasn't necessarily, I guess, that bad because really we just did what we did and just kept the the safety standards when it came to like masks and disinfecting and stuff. It actually kind of it kind of helped out because we were working with another business that we were selling like anime masks and stuff. So like we tried to make the most out of it. So it was really it was a challenge because when you have people who are trying to decide what bills they're going to pay because they
right.
Some people lost their jobs and whatnot. There were a lot of people who were still looking for something to, get them through. And for a lot of people, anime is that thing. So that it was still, some people were still coming. They were looking for things. They were buying stuff because that was one of their things. I know it was one of the things for me that helped get through, the pandemic. Anime and video games helped me get through, the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things like we did have to adjust, but I don't really feel like, it affected us as far as like what we needed to do too much. We just had to just make sure that, we were still able to provide, the people who were able to come through with still, the products they want or the best, and the best customer service we could get. Because, people had way bigger issues going on at that time.
Right. Facts. I'll say something. You touched there. You said anime is what helps you get through it. How big of an impact has anime been on your whole life, not just in that COVID?
Well, for me, anime was just something that I had been enjoying for a long time without even me realizing. Because when I was, in elementary school, starting with Pokemon, I didn't realize I was watching anime. I thought I was just watching a cool, cartoon that, was just, something I enjoyed. But honestly, like with anime, for a lot of us, whether we realize it or not, it kind of shaped our childhood, as far as like some of the stuff that we enjoy. That's why a lot of us, still like it to this day because, we were raised on Pokemon, Digimon, Dragon Ball Z, all that stuff, whether it was 4Kids TV, whether it was WB, like you were watching some kind of anime whether you realized it or not.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people still hold on to that to this day, especially people in my age group, the millennials, whatever. I think that's what it is. Like it's still a comfort. At least for me, when I watch anime, it kind of takes me to a place, back how I feel back in those times, the 90s, where you didn't have as many issues or you didn't have bills to pay. Like, you could just escape for a little bit. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. What animes were some of your biggest inspirations during that time? Which ones did you focus on and highlight?
Well, definitely, like I said before, Pokemon, because that's something I have been a fan of for, that's since like 20 years now, or more than that, 25 years.
So the anime come for you teenage years, or did it come for you before?
It was second grade. Pokemon, like we were, Pokemon anime and stuff for me, that was like early elementary school, third grade. We had Pokemon cards. Like it was getting to the point where like the school was like, we couldn't even bring Pokemon cards to school. Like it was one of those things where, and it just, it's one of those things that stuck with me. I think that's the first thing that started me wanting to collect stuff too.
Really?
Because like I started out collecting Pokemon cards. Now I'm like, with my anime figures and statues, like I have a collection of those. Funko Pops, those little vinyl figures, like, I collect those too. So like that also kind of, I think, started the collectors, the collector, mode for me started for that. So of course, like everyone, Dragon Ball Z was one of those ones where, everyone, it shaped a lot of us. Like we were coming home from school, getting ready to watch that. And, once that, it took a long time for some of the stuff to happen in that show with, one episode, you have to wait till tomorrow. But, as you can see with anime culture, that anime influenced a lot of people. That's why there's so many references, even in like Western cartoons, Dragon Ball Z references, whether it's like, stuff like the newer shows like Chowder, Gumball, like a lot of those episodes or cartoons, like there's some kind of Dragon Ball Z reference in there. So that's something that, whether you know it or not, that's something that has inspired the world. Like with Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball Z, recently passing away, a lot of, I think that just kind of made people appreciate it even more because we, know we have this time, we have these memories, these things. So I would say that.
Yeah. That's so interesting, man. I know at that time, anime was not necessarily the coolest thing at that time. Like any of the people who I knew liked anime would almost sort of like hide it a little bit. Like they wouldn't necessarily be so out in the public with it, man. Did you watching anime at that time ever come with any stigmas around you or any sort of anything like that? Did you ever feel some type of way about it, or did you try and hide it yourself?
Well, see, for me, it was a little different because, like I said, I didn't realize that, like, that anime was anime when I was watching it until I would say maybe got into, like, maybe 7th grade or 8th grade. Because before that, we just thought we were just watching, like, cartoons. So by the time I really got into it, I didn't really start talking about anime, realizing it was, what set anime apart from, like, our cartoons until, I was in, like, end of middle school, starting high school. But for me, it was a little different because I didn't really talk about it with people, I didn't really talk about it unless it was with people who enjoyed it. So I didn't really get that. But I do know, as far as like, I've seen a lot of examples, I heard a lot of examples from friends about how it wasn't cool, people getting made fun of and stuff like that. But it was a little bit different for me, but I definitely, know the stigma. Because even with certain things like, liking, even with anime or like, video games, like even some people are like, oh, you play video games, like, aren't you over 30? And it's like, the media, that media is still made for us to enjoy. So like, of course I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I will say, to kind of go with your question, thankfully, it is way more mainstream now, so like people don't really have to hide it. There's conventions and stuff where people go and cosplay and they're, living their best life. So
yeah.
With those things, we don't have to worry about it as much, thankfully. Not to say that the anime community isn't without, other problems, but as far as like being able to openly enjoy it, I don't think we have to worry too much about that.
Yeah. I feel that, man. Is Yu-Gi-Oh an anime?
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh is too. Yu-Gi-Oh is another one. So like I said, a lot of people have watched anime, not even realize they have been watching anime before and they like them. So that's always a start.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. That was the one for me that I know a lot of people would either have the Yu-Gi-Oh cards and be like overly. I don't know what it is about anime. Like people have told me I should try this one, I should watch this one, I should watch that one. I can't seem to get into it. I watch a couple of them and be like, this isn't really for me. But kind of touching aside from anime. Just in your childhood, man, was there anything that happened that left an impact on you, good, bad?
As far as like just
life, like a teacher that might have made an impression on you, or a certain moment, a child moment that left an impression on you that kind of helped you get to where you are now?
Question. Well, as far as like with that, I would have to probably say, honestly, it was my dad. Like as far as like to talk about somebody that influenced me as far as like to get where I am, because he kind of introduced me to like anime for real when it came to like Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that. There has been times like when I first because I grew up with my grandma, but there was a period when I was a teenager that I did end up moving with my dad, and he would have like these old anime VHSs and stuff like that. So like Initial D, Vampire Hunter, stuff like that. Like, and then he would through my uncle, get our uncle was able to like I don't want to get nobody in trouble, but making the CDs at the time.
I know what you mean.
Introduced me to a bunch of anime. Like honestly, one of the more popular ones, Naruto. I had, because of course a lot of anime, all the anime comes out in Japan first before it will come here. They do an English dub of it. So like with Naruto, by the time I had discovered that, my uncle gave me DVDs of like all pretty much the whole show. So I was watching it and enjoying it before we even got it in the States. Before people, when it finally did get here, and some of my friends were excited. I'm like, oh, I already watched that. I already knew that. And it was kind of like, I guess you could call it a flex, but I was, it helped me because people were like, I would let people, my classmates borrow them like one at a time. Like, here, you got to give me it because I can't have like, all of them missing at once. Like, you got to, it was, I was kind of the cool kid, I guess, for a minute in school for that because there was a lot of times where, people didn't want to wait. There was a time too, like when you wanted to watch anime. Oh my god, that's why now with Crunchyroll, Hulu and stuff like having anime accessible, it's so much easier to be an anime fan now. Because back in the day when I was in like high school, you had to watch an episode of anime on YouTube, 7 videos, 3 minutes each, sped up or a small screen to get over the copyright, and it was just a lot. So like it's way easier now to get into anime. So like that's always something I try to tell people like if you get into it, it's easier for you to do it now than it was. You can binge stuff, especially a lot of older anime that's already been done. Like you can just sit there and enjoy it. You don't have to wait every week. That was something too, because like I think that part of that helped influence it. Like just the work that we had to go through to enjoy stuff. So to be able to sit and enjoy it even more, easily, that I think helps too. But to go back to your question, really, I would say it was my dad, and it's what's crazy that like I don't even think it was one of those things that had happened. It was inadvertently. Like I don't think he really wanted me. Like he didn't really try to get me into anime, like, to do this, of course, but it was just, just him just being a dad and like, I think you'll like this or whatever. Like, that kind of started something.
Yeah. I want to say I respect it, and I respect you too, bro. I don't know if you know this, but this is a big reason why I even wanted to set up this platform and to have this show, because I want people to know that like whatever it is you're into, you can make a living off of it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can be in purpose about it. Like like listening to you talk about anime, and I'm so glad that you are in the position that you're in. Because bro, what are some animes that people have watched growing up that they had no clue were animes? And then
yeah. So again, we can go back to some of those ones we talked about earlier. Pokemon is one. Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, of course, Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, any of the Gundam Wings.
Yeah.
So if you were watching those growing up, and even without, not even necessarily, it's not an anime, but even just to go back to like Japanese culture too, Power Rangers, that's something that was Japanese first, and we got what was, recorded over there first. So a lot of a lot of the Power Ranger fans know that, but a lot of people don't realize too, like as far as like it's not an anime, but a Japanese show that we wouldn't have if it wasn't for Japan. It would be Power Rangers, Power Rangers, stuff like that. That would be because like with Super Sentai is what it is over there. So
that's
they would pretty much would record it's interesting because you can watch on Netflix. There's like a documentary about like the popular toys from like the 80s or 90s, whatever, and the Power Rangers ones is on there, and they'll tell you the story. But pretty much, they would just take the film, the clips from the show in Japan, and just kind of voice over it, add a little bit more. But everything that you watched when you watched Power Rangers was not filmed here. Yeah. It was just the Japanese version. They took it. They may have recorded some English scenes and some of the stuff. But I thought that was just a lot of people didn't realize that that's something that, from Japan too. Not necessarily anime, but, it's, still a media from there. But pretty much a lot of any of the animes you were watching, growing up on, like I said, 4Kids on the weekend, Saturday, or, WB. Some people don't remember a lot of them, like, Ultimate Muscle, Fighting Foodons. Shaman King, like all of those, even when One Piece, when One Piece came out on the 4Kids dub, looking back on it, like it was, to make it more enjoyable for kids. But One Piece, like One Piece shape, it's still going on now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was, there's a lot of them that we grew up watching, and I think that's where a lot of people, still hold on to those.
Yeah. How big of an influence has Japanese culture had in America?
I think if you are like an artist, it probably impacts a lot of them more as far as like, being able to tell a story, or get like, your point across via art. I think, it's a little bit different for everyone, but you definitely can't deny the impact Japanese culture has over it, because a lot of people, and this could be a good or a bad thing, depending on how the person is, but there are people who kind of, base their personality around certain characters, or, certain things like from Japanese culture, whether it's, having an anime character reference in your social media name, or like your style of dress, like what cultures you are into, like gothic, gothic Lolita stuff, like K-pop, well, not K-pop, that's Korean, J-pop, stuff like that, idols. There's a lot of stuff that I think that people take from Japanese culture, just like there's a lot of things that they from American culture that they like. But it's definitely, you definitely can see it in the anime fans, and for real, there's not I would say, like, probably not a lot of people who probably appreciate Japanese culture that aren't anime fans, but you definitely see that in the way that people enjoy their media. So I think is definitely there.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Usually, especially whenever I'm sitting down with somebody, I like to take people back from their early life to where they are now. For you, I'm going to make a special change for that and for this episode. And I'm actually going to start with the anime questions. I just want to get straight into anime, man. What are the misconceptions of anime?
So one of the biggest misconceptions to me is that when people say anime is for kids, or grown or adults shouldn't watch anime, because there are anime out there that a kid should not be watching. And it's not to say that it's like, because of like sexual stuff, but it's just like there's anime out there that is geared towards an older crowd. So really? That's one of the big things. Like when people say like anime, like you're too old to enjoy this or that, like that is crazy, because there are anime out there that you would not let your kids watch when it comes to like, stuff like that, whether, like blood or violent, fighting and stuff like that. But that's probably like one of the biggest misconceptions, at least the one that I hate, the misconception I hate the most, is that when people say like, oh, it's for kids, why do you, watch that? Like everything is not for kids.
Yeah.
Just like there's cartoons like Family Guy. Just because it's it's animated doesn't mean it's for kids.
I see what you're saying. What should someone be looking for when watching an anime?
That's a good question. So to me, that's not really a one answer for everyone question, because it honestly depends. There are some times, and even me, it's not always the same, because there's some days I watch an anime just because I just want something playing in the background. But there are days where I want to sit and watch a good story. There's days I just want to watch people fight. So there's a lot of different anime out there for you. So I guess it just depends on like kind of what you're looking for when you watch any kind of show or movie. Like what is it that you look for? Because there are a lot of animes out there that are just like surface level, where it's just quick and it's just to the point, or like to laugh or enjoy or whatever. And then there's ones that are that build a story, build a world that you can take your time watching. So it just honestly, I feel like it's different for everybody. The answer to that question, because some people, it depends on, are you a casual watcher? Like it's just different for everyone.
Wow. Would you say you need Would you say you need to be well versed before coming to an anime?
No, because that's the only way you're going to get well versed, is just to jump right into it. So if you do that, I just like to tell people, honestly, when it comes to anime, just take your time. If you know, if you just know that, maybe, stuff like that isn't for you, that's fine too. But yeah, just everyone should move at their own pace when it comes to anime because everyone doesn't consume media the same way. So that's always my take on it.
What would you say all around is a good anime for people to watch who are new to it?
I'm going to try to generalize this as best I can because, like, there are ones that, in my opinion, I think are overall good for people to start with. But at the true answer to that question, it just depends on what that person likes. So, but I can offer some suggestions on what I think are rounded animes that maybe people can start. So, of course, I would probably say, like, starting with, like, Dragon Ball Z, because it's like, it's pretty straightforward. It's just, about fighting, like, saving the world, whatnot. There's a little bit of comedy mixed in there, stuff like that. Newer animes like that are kind of like I think the story is, in general, we had a conversation before the episode about, comic books and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think, My Hero Academia, which is a literary anime about a world where everyone has a superpower and, the kids go to school to learn to become professional heroes. So I think, like if you're into stuff like that, that's like one that you can start with. There's animes like that. So if you like superhero stuff or like Marvel, DC, I would say My Hero Academia, or there's one called Tiger and Bunny where it's like, it's just like animes with superhero basis where they try to just, learn to be heroes to help save the world, stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you are a sports person, there's plenty of sports animes that you can watch that are crazy. I'm not if you can't tell by this, I'm not really a sports person.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, there are a lot of sports animes that have held my interest and I think are cool because they add something to it. Because like when anime, a lot of the times unless it's like a historical or what do they call it, period piece, or like maybe a drama. A lot of the stuff is unrealistic. Of course, you're watching anime because like you're just trying to have fun.
Facts.
But with sport animes, they add a certain level to it that to me that makes the sport a little bit more interesting. Just kind of like Mario Kart compared to like a normal racing game like Gran Turismo. Like yes, you're racing cars, but with Mario Kart, because they add a little bit of fun to it, or like weapons and stuff like that, I think makes it. That's kind of how I look at sports anime. They add like with some people that have the this ability because they do this, or like the way that they explain like how this person can do this jump shot, or this person and can block a spike a volleyball this way. Like they add a little something extra that I think this makes it a little bit better. Yeah. If you're somebody who likes romance and stuff, there's a bunch of romance or like lovey-dovey animes that you can watch with like your spouse or your partner or whatever. There's a lot of different genres even within anime. So like I would just say like start with what you normally would like when you're watching any kind of movie, and just go from there. If you find you are more likely will find something that you will like.
Yeah. Two things. One, I want to say Mario Kart is one of the greatest games ever created, without a doubt. Without a doubt, fight me on that.
A true friendship tester of a game.
Oh my god! But it's also so simple.
Yeah,
like it's so simple. Like you could lose to someone who isn't even as skilled as you, or who's been playing
just
it
because they got a red shell at the right time too. That can be.
Oh my god! Or a blue shell.
Yeah.
Get bombed in when you're about to win. Yeah, I'll never forget. Crazy story. I'm not sure. You remember the Nintendo DS? I know you're into anime. So yeah, you liked a lot of what Nintendo does.
I was playing my 3DS XL the other day. So yeah, I still have mine.
Do you remember back in the day where like if you were around your friends or whatever and you guys all had a DS, you could like hop on Mario Kart together? Yes. You know what I'm saying?
I'll do you one better. In the Game Boy Advance days, when they made Mario Kart Advance for the Game Boy Advance, you could still play multiple people. Seriously? Even if only one of you had the game. You just needed to have the link cable that can plug into each one. So it was cool because I could plug in, and my friend didn't have it, but I could still race him. And
Are you
if we
for
had
real?
like, if you had the, 2 link cables because you plug them in and it, 4 people could play. The only thing that sucked when you didn't have the actual game yourself, you just had to be a Yoshi, which was fine because you could still play with your friends. But that I will always remember that because
That's
you could play,
crazy.
a multiplayer game without everyone needing to have the game, and I thought that was so fascinating at that time.
Yo, that's wow. They had that on Game Boy Advance? Yo, I
Yeah,
did not
Mario
know
Kart
that.
Advance. That
I
was
did
one of the
not
first
know
games I
that.
got when I got my Game Boy Advance. I remember.
Yeah. So that was like the original online, technically.
Kind of like, well, back in the Game Boy and Game Boy Pocket days, you needed that link cable to plug them up, and that that's how you would trade. And
Yeah.
those days. Now everything can be thankfully wirelessly, like with your Switch and your DS is like they have it's wireless. But
Yeah.
I remember those days. I still have some those cables too. But
That is wow. Are they in the shop, man? Like
oh
those,
no, from
all
my
of that?
personal, we don't the shop. We don't really get into like the video games because we actually are in the same strip mall as a video game store, so we leave that to them.
Got you. Got you.
But yeah, my personal collection, I have a lot of games and apparel, peripherals. They call I have a lot of those.
I respect it, man. But just to end off that story, man, back in like elementary, whenever we would be on a bus and like 6 or 7 kids had the Nintendo with them, we would like hop on and start playing. The last game I played ever on the DS, Mario Kart, was me blue shelling a friend of mine to take the lead and win the game. It was an amazing moment. I'm sure we've all been there.
Yeah.
If you played Mario
I
Kart,
have
you've
a
had
few
that
examples
moment.
of that too, for sure.
But yeah, man. So I've heard a lot of people say they use the word manga. They'll say, "Have you checked out the manga? Or have you seen the manga? Or do you know anything about the manga on that anime?" What is a manga?
So a manga is just really manga translates literally to comic in Japanese. So it's really just a comic book, but it's just the Japanese structure of it because Japanese manga it reads differently, kind of like the reverse. So like if you ever pick up a manga and you open it as you would normally, it'll tell you, but you read manga from right to left. You start at you start at the other end of the book, how how they do it. But really the name translated manga just means comic book in Japanese or comic. But really the difference is, it's still a difference as far as like, the formatting, like I said, but that's really all it is.
Yeah. Is there a reason why they start from right to left? Does that help the story?
I just think that's just how they probably do things over there. Cause like even just like the country is, they're one of the countries where the driver's side is on the left as well. So I don't know if that's just, how they do things over there, but I don't think it has any necessarily like, story driven examples of why, but that's just how it is. There's probably other countries that do it too. I just know they're one of them.
That's so interesting though. Reading from right to left, that's got to be like a mind, like a twister at first, like kind of looking at it.
It's not as bad as you would think.
That means you
like,
open it up from this side, not this side, right?
You will open it up from the end there,
this
and
side.
then just read it, that way. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. What's something people should know about anime before coming to it?
Well, just like with movies and TV shows, there are good ones and there are ones that suck. So, find what, you like and what works for you. And I think part of the conversation that can be had too is like what makes, what you enjoy about a certain anime or ones that you think are bad. Why? Because even with ones that are generally bad, there's people who probably like them. Just like, we had our conversations about, comics and stuff like that. It's the same thing. Like just just come into it with knowing that you probably are not going to like every anime. That is something I think people need to realize a little bit more, because a lot of times when people get into like heated debates about it is because, I don't know, I think it's because people think that, people feel some type of way when maybe something they like, people don't like it as well. Probably. That's not always like, you just have to realize that everyone's different and everybody's not going to like the same thing. And that's with anything. So just keep don't think too differently because it's, anime or something that's like, not American culture.
Yeah.
But it's just with anything. So just come into it with that mindset. Like it's going to be just like any other interest you have. That's the main thing.
Yeah. I think it's because anime fans fight for anime.
That's one way to put it. Yes. So anime fans can be crazy when it comes to like their favorite animes, their favorite characters. So just like with any any kind of fandom, comic books, like movies, whatever, sports, anime fandoms can get crazy too. So I just just like with anything. If you're not a person that likes to debate, I would just say maybe stay away from stuff like that. Just try to build your own, either be a part of a community that, is in line with what you like to do. If you can't find one, then I would just say make your own, because that's the main thing. It's like community, being able to talk about the stuff you like to talk about with like-minded people. So
Yeah.
there is a big anime community, at least in Michigan. It's just about finding, where you fit in as far as like, what interest in anime and stuff that you share with a lot of the other people too.
Yeah. I might sound like a complete novice when I ask this question, and maybe you touched it earlier, but what makes an anime? Like, why aren't certain American cartoons that are similar come across as animes and to be looked at as like different?
Well, honestly, it's just really the culture. It's just anime because it's Japanese, really. So like,
okay.
we wouldn't call, we just don't call it anime here. That's all it really is.
Got you.
And if there's something different, I mean, feel free to let me know if I'm forgetting something or I'm being ignorant. But honestly, it's just the thing. I think that's what the main thing that people get hung up on when it comes to like anime and manga is just that, at the end of the day, that's just what it's called in Japan.
Yeah.
It's just really that.
Got you. I'm gonna get off the anime and transition into the Otaku Detroit, which I can't wait to get into. But just describe anime in one sentence for people who don't know what it is, people who are thinking about getting into it.
To describe anime in one word,
I wouldn't necessarily say one word. I'll give you one sentence.
honestly, anime is whatever you make of it. With any kind of expression of our media, everyone interprets things differently. So I would just say, just like with anime, it's whatever you make it for yourself.
That was great. that was a good answer. I don't think nobody's gonna be mad at you for saying that at all. But transitioning into Otaku Detroit, man, which is a shop you co-own, or you've worked. I guess technically you worked your way up into co-owning. It's a crazy story.
Now I just I don't have to the story, but
that's yeah, that's crazy, man. So Japanese candy, anime merchandise, wall scrolls, I don't even know what that is, mochi ice cream, figures, swords, antique Japanese Nahantu. Am I saying that right? Nahanto.
What do you
antique
got?
Japanese Nahanto.
What do you got? Let me see. You got it. How you got?
I'm not sure you could read the handwriting. But Nahanto.
If it looks like it's spelling out Nihongo, which is just Japanese in Japanese, so I don't know.
Really? Yeah.
But
either way, manga. You guys do all of these different things at your shop, man. Before I even get into the shop itself, what gave you the courage to step into that role of being a co-owner?
Because it's really simple. Honestly, it's just I have always wanted to be able to make money or have a job where if I'm, if I have to work, a job, I want it to be with something I enjoy, because that will make it a better experience for me. Even though, and I don't, of course, no one wants this every day. There are days where we'll go in the shop, and there's days where we make $0 a day that day. But at least, unlike working for someone else, or like, dealing with a job where you may have to talk to crazy people like my day job, at least I'm not mentally tired after as much sometimes. It can be, not gonna lie, there, when there's, you have your slow days to where you can get, one day or 2 days in a row you might not make anything, and that can get, mentally draining or taxing. But honestly, at least you're doing it for yourself. And I think that's what it is. Like being able to, I think you like kind of what you said in the beginning, just taking something that you like and being able to, make money with it. I just wish, everyone could be able to do that.
Yeah. It's a dream for a lot of people, man. But I think, again, this is why I said I'm so glad you came on today, and you've been sharing your story, because people like something. You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter how down bad people might seem in life or how crazy things might get, they like something. And if they just can hear that more people are making money, making a living, being in purpose, enjoying life because they're living from that place of creating the thing that they like from their core, you know what I'm saying? Working from that, it'll give people the courage to actually go into that.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sure that had to be a crazy step for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you went from just helping out to like, hey man, we're gonna put your name on the on this now. You know what I'm saying? So much respect to you for that. And then, what goes into maintaining a business like yours?
So, oh boy, the short answer is money. The short answer is money. But honestly, a lot of planning. Because as far as like, we planning as far as like, what stuff we need to get, like, when are we going to have these events and things like that. So like, other than the store too, not sure if you have any, have a question for that, but other than like the stuff we sell in the store, we also do events and stuff like that. Like here at Executive Studio, we have a movie night we were doing for May called Anime, where we just showed a different, two movies,
dope.
Every weekend of the month of May. So we do stuff like that. We actually also, there are anime conventions, just like there's comic conventions, Comic Cons, there's anime conventions. And we have started our own convention too called Ishokan that we've done.
Wow.
This past January was our first one in 2024.
Yeah.
We do have 2025's Ishokan already planned, and you can check that out on our website. Ishokan.com is available, or you can find it through Otaku Detroit as well.
Nice.
We have a small mini convention called the Otaku Detroit Summer Bash. Is going to be this year in July.
Wow.
That information can be found on our website too. But we do a lot of stuff like that, and the planning it takes to go into to do conventions is crazy. So you have to, I would say, planning and organizing, but also having a team, man. Like, the three of us would not have, if and that's another thing that it takes, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to know when you need to reach out and ask for help too, because sometimes like trying to take a lot of things on yourself when you have a smaller group, or like, with your staff, like it really kind of can make things worse in the long run. So I think too that one of the things that makes our business successful now is that knowing when we need to reach out for help. Because in our couple years of being open, we've amassed a bunch of contacts, friends, stuff that can help us with pretty much any aspect we need help with. But we have to be able to just, know when we need to ask for that help. And I think that goes a long way. So I will say, if you have a community, please lean on it, because there's been times where we needed that. In the couple years we've been open, our store has been broken into twice, unfortunately.
Really?
But we were able to bounce back from that because of the community. Like, they looked out for us in a way I don't think they still will never truly understand how much that meant for us. So
wow.
I would say, like, with that, like, it takes planning, organization skills, but also knowing when to reach out for help, especially when you have the help available to you.
Yeah. What was that experience like?
Honestly, when we got broken into, it was honestly, it just, I don't know if you ever had anything stolen from you, like anything, but it is like such a feeling of like like you just feel so violated. Like you just feel so like, you know, I don't even. When it happened, I remember getting a call from our friends at the video game store. They called me, and I was at my day job working. And when they called and told me that happened, like my stomach sank, and I just was like, "Oh God!"
Wow.
And it was just a mess. And then it was like, you know, when we finally cleaned up all the broken glass and got everything back, you know, people were very supportive, and they, you know, helped us, you know, replace the window and stuff. You know, we were cool. We got about it. I don't even remember how long it was, but it was still like, you know, after a while, then to get that call a second time was just like, oh my God,
wow.
we cannot keep cleaning up all this glass. Like it was so much. But, you know, that was probably one of the worst experiences of my life. But again, it was something that our friends and customers and, you know, community really helped us get through. And I was honestly like, I was done. I was like, a part of me wanted to be done that second time. I'm just like, I don't know if we can keep doing this. But honestly, our friends and customers really made me remember why we did this too, or why we keep doing this. So
yeah.
That's I'll say that.
If you don't mind me asking, what's the aftermath like that for people who don't understand what it's like to have a store broken into? What's the aftermath that you have to go through?
It was a lot of cleaning up the broken glass, having to like wait for insurance companies to get back because like, you know, with stuff like that, because like our money got taken.
Wow.
Some of the stuff's like needing to replace the stock that was stolen so that when we can't open, it's a setback. Like you would imagine, it was just a horrible setback.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's not something I would wish on anyone. Like it's such a hassle, and to deal with, you know, the police and, you know, not even knowing nothing probably is going to happen. They're not going to catch the person or whatever because they didn't. But it was just like, you know,
yeah.
Yeah. So 0 out of 10 would not recommend.
0 out of 10 would not recommend. No. How long does it take to get back up and running after a situation like that?
Honestly, we were probably down for about a week or so the first time. Probably about a week, just because, like, you know, sometimes, like, you know, the mental toll it takes, like, you know, to get ourselves together and just get the store back together because, and just, again, like, we know when some of the stuff gets stolen, like, we don't really have anything to sell, so we have to, like, you know, kind of wait a little bit. So,
yeah.
Probably about, I would say like maybe a week or so. It may have been a little longer. Honestly, I try to block that out. No, but yeah.
What's some of the biggest misconceptions about your business?
So for me, I'm gonna give you two.
Okay.
One, a lot of people, because customers will come in here and say, and it's like, wow, it must be nice to sit in here and watch anime all day. I don't get to sit there and watch anime all day. I wish that I could, because there's always something going on.
Yeah.
That we either have the plan or something, and, you know, and two, I really wish even if it was slow enough for me to sit there and watch anime, I don't want that to happen, because that means no one's coming in and I don't have anything to do but sit and watch anime.
Right.
So that's like, you know, that. But like, you know, it's not just me sitting there watching anime all day. I usually just put anime on in the shop just so there's some ambiance there.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, that's one misconception. I think a lot of people think we're just sitting there watching anime all day, and that's not the case. Or we don't want it to be the case, because that's not a good thing.
So what are you doing? What is
so
the typical
I'm
day?
Either like, you know, working on. There's some days where I work my day job while I'm at the shop sometimes. So I'm either probably working from my other job, my day job, or looking into some stuff we could do for the store, trying to find, you know, some products that I think we'll like, or trying to get our social media presence up, making a TikTok or something to try and get it going. Like, we have the anime convention going, so, like, you know, trying to help make sure everything is ready for that, communicating with different, you know, vendors or whatnot. We always got something going on we could be doing, and I'm just either trying to find something to get the store going, moving forward more, grants, whatever. Like I'm always trying to do something.
Yeah.
And I would say the other misconception is that I think a lot of people think that we do make more money than we do, and I wish that was the case. But no. So like I always say, and I say that to say that like if you go into a store, local, especially if it's like a small local business, if you can support, even if it's just one little drink, like please do, because like like I said, there are some days, and I'm not trying to beg for charity or whatever, but it's just sometimes there's, like I said, days where we open, and there's days where we a 0 day. It happens sometimes because, like I said, we know, going into this too, that. Because I'll tell customers this when they're deciding, like, yes, to be honest, what we sell is not a necessity. You don't need an anime figure, but treat yourself. So like stuff like that. So I would think those there were some of the misconceptions that I think that people think like because they're I think a lot of people don't realize what goes into buying some of the stuff too, because like people would come in here and think we just have all this stock, or like they're looking for this. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff we don't have on hand because there's, it requires money, and we don't,
right.
I don't know if we're, people think we make, more than we are some days, but I would love in a perfect world for everyone to come in the shop and whatever they ask me for, I have it or I can get it. But sometimes that's just not the case. But it's going to take, us being able to, get more sales for us to build us up to that point. So I think I just wish more people would maybe, think about it that way.
Yeah. That's because your market is anime fans, right? Mm-hmm. Like you said, like people don't need it, but fans are gonna buy it from things that they love and want to support. You know what I'm saying? So I could definitely see that as a misconception. And then always thinking about what's next, man. I want to give you props for that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's business in a nutshell. Like I think that's a big misconception on a lot of small businesses outside of like restaurants and stuff where people know what your work actually is. But like running a shop like you do, it's not easy to know just walking in or having seen it from an outside view, like what's the work look like. Because most people probably think like you put the stuff up, like on the walls, out, and then you wait for people to come in and buy it. You know what I'm saying?
And there's like, people are like, oh, are you hiring? I would love to hire someone. As soon as we get to a position where we can afford to hire a person, I will make the best help wanted campaign you will ever see in your life.
Yeah.
Because, I would love to be able to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah. But you're staying afloat though. Yeah. So props major. Most businesses don't last 5 years, let alone 4, let alone 3, 2. You know what I'm saying? And you guys are at 4 years, right?
Yeah, going on 5. 4 years. Because we're going on 4 years in about a month or so because we opened right in the summer. So
no slowing down. You got your own.
Definitely not slowing down because there's, like I said, we have so much. So the conventions and things, I think that's something we're going to continue to grow.
Talk about that a little bit, man.
And so we have Ishokan, which is something I've never thought we would have our own convention. Like, as someone who I've been going to anime conventions myself since 2009, starting with YomaCon, that's here in Detroit.
Wow.
But to think that, it will get to a point where we will put together our own convention, because it started off as something small when we would do like, we would call them mini conventions, because most anime conventions are a weekend thing. They're like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We would just do like a one day, one on Saturday. We would do it at Beer Middle School, which is in Warren. We were able to like, pay to, rent the school and just have a one day little small convention there. And it got to the point we were doing it. We've done like maybe 4 or 5 of them.
Wow.
And people were like, you guys should do, and all the people who came were compliment us and like how much, a good time that they had. And like, you guys should do a full convention. Like, I think you guys could do really good. So we kind of, took that leap and we started planning Ishokan.
Nice.
That was last year, 2023, we were planning it. Then it happened 2024. Next thing you know, like it seemed like we had so much time. Like, okay, we got time to plan it. We got time to plan it. Then January was here, and it was like, oh, we got to get this going. And I will say, as someone who's been going to cons for that long, I had no idea the work it took to plan an event like that. Like it was probably one of the most stressful things in my life.
Really?
But honestly, it was so worth it. Like I think I still have fun, even though I was tired after that. Like we closed the shop for like I think we were closed on Monday anyway, so we closed like the whole week.
Wow.
To recover from that. Like it was crazy. But
yeah.
It was such a good time. Like we actually got to the point where not knowing, like, not getting worried we weren't getting enough ticket sales before the event started to selling out Saturday.
Wow.
We got to the point where we had to unfortunately turn people away because we couldn't, we had reached the capacity. Now, and every time you do something, like it's a lesson learned. So, for 2025, we do have a bigger hotel, so we don't have to worry about capping that.
Nice.
So,
slight flex.
Yeah.
Slight flex.
But it was good because like there's so much that goes into it with making sure the table, the format for just where tables and chairs go, like working with the hotel to make sure everything is ready to go. Making sure you have someone there to handle your voice actors, making sure your everything with the panels that go smoothly. There's so much that goes into it that I think few people realize. So if you go to a convention and there's things that are wrong, definitely give your feedback. But just please, I always, now that I'm on the other side, sometimes you got to give a little smidgen of grace sometimes. So, but of course, we definitely tried our best to of course, we don't want any mistakes or anything like that. So we're always going to try our best. But I think that's part of the reason why we're so successful as far as with conventions is that we try to do it. We see examples of other conventions, and how things are ran. And we try to take the stuff we see that we like and try to build on that. So I think it helps us because we don't have a lot of conventions that we used to in Michigan. So that's another reason why we want to do this is to give Michigan more options.
Wow.
So that will be something that I think was what we had our intentions from the beginning, just to build something bigger. So now that we have that 2025, we're already working on making that a good time too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the conventions are great. I like the conventions too because it gives like you mentioned earlier, with people being able to make money off of things that they enjoy. I think part of the reason too why I like doing these too, and even our shop in general, is that we use the convention too. And the shop to try and give other people the chance to make money off of what they like because with the conventions we have a whole hall of vendors and artists who put a lot of hard work into their art, whether it's digital print art, stickers, buttons, whatever it is that our artists make, to be able to have them because I know if most of them, if not all of them, enjoy their art. Enjoy art so that they're able to actually make money off of it. Yeah. I love giving them the opportunity to do that too. So that's another thing. We get to do what we, like and make money, and we give other people the chance to do that too.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. What's a piece of advice you would give to someone looking to start their own anime convention?
Get a dependable team. If you want to start a convention, and that's when, if honestly, and this applies to any event, it doesn't have to be something as big as a convention, or even if it's a smaller event, whatever the event is, delegate. Get your team, have a plan together. That's the main thing. Because if you plan everything and you have everyone doing their jobs, things will run so much smoother. A lot of the stuff, the money is important as far as planning a convention too. But if you have your plan of what you are trying to do, the money will come. And And like honestly, like after our the ESHOCon 2024, delegation is key. Like if we again we had to learn the hard way to reach out and ask for help, but now going forward, we know what we can do.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome, man. You know, I touched earlier that community was more important than customers for you. And through your conversation, I've really gotten to understand why, man. Talk about the community of people that you guys have as a support base for your shop, man. It sounds like there's some great people.
We have a lot of our, regular customers that have come through for us, and times of need. Like I said, when I mentioned earlier about the time we were broken into, we had a friend of ours. When we, like I said, we made it through there. They made a GoFundMe for us to replace the window because that was $400 we didn't have, and then to think that again that happened twice.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was just like and these were people. And when I sat and thought about it, these weren't people that necessarily knew me before the shop. These weren't like my outside friends that, they're friends. I consider them friends now.
Yeah.
But these were people that, we made them feel enough of us to want to help us out because of just how we were in the shop to them. Like, customers, yes, your customers are there to help you, they, help you make money. But if you treat them right, like there's so much more. There's so much more than just, a customer to give you money. Like, those things happen. Like, shout out to Hannah, one of our regular customers. She is amazing. She helps us. Shout out to our friend Ricky with his podcast, Spoiler Force. He really helped get the word out there for us. So, like,
nice.
Those are two people, that I always think of when it comes to, like, helping us because – when we got, especially when it came to that time when we got broken into, like, they were really there for us. And again, I don't even have the words to describe how appreciative I am of those two for that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just like I said, with everything, like when it comes to networking, just like how I met you, like with, coming in here to show, my friend the space for his event, we met so many people that, like I said, I like to be able to, like, if you are looking for something, I know someone that I can give you that information to. Or if, like, with our artists, like with Flash, I was telling them, if you're making your comic book, if you need help with printing, I know a person that prints. If you have we have a publisher that comes in, because he sells some of his clients' books through the store. So like, if you need help with that, like, that's what it's all about. Like, we have gotten by with the help from people. So I feel like everyone deserves, help. We don't believe in gatekeeping stuff. Like, if you want to know this or, certain things like that, like, we'll tell you whatever you need to know. If you want us to help you, we will, because that's how, we get by. We get by with community. I will always believe that. If there's I try to be there as far as, like, I know so many different people and things, like, if anyone's looking for anything, I love to be able to just be like, oh, I know this person, they'll help you with that. Yeah. It's very important, especially for us.
Yeah. Yeah, man. A lot of people talk about their successes, especially when it comes to business. I actually want to know, aside from getting broken into, which was out of your control, what was some of the biggest lessons you had to learn through Otaku Detroit? What was some of your biggest fails?
So honestly, I have to say that sometimes I had to learn a lesson that sometimes, sometimes the events that you might plan, sometimes people might not come. Our first movie night we ever did was pretty good at the shop. There was a time where only one person bought a ticket, so we just had to cancel it. When we did because we set it up for the whole month, I'll be completely honest with you, when we did the anime for this month here, the first movie we did, only 2 people showed. Yeah. But I didn't cancel it because we're already set up, because, like, I set up more than one. So we just kept it going. But this time, it just, sometimes just know that, you might plan something and people might not come.
Yeah.
But you have to make sure that, you don't let that stop you. You have to kind of keep going because, you can't let one failure stop you, because if that's the case, we wouldn't be as far as we would be.
Yeah.
Because like I said, there's times where, like I said, we have the $0 days. Oh, my human condition, I want to just cry and not do it anymore. But you can't base, everything off of one good, bad day. Just like you can't, base, don't get too excited when you have one really good day. Like, you have to just make sure that you even yourself out.
Right. Right. You get broken into. You have people not show up to the event. You have other things that go on throughout the years. You have your $0 days. Why not stop?
So I don't want to stop because I'm a firm believer of, like, some, like, I can see the bigger picture and the light at the end of the tunnel. Because if we can just keep going to where where we want to go, I know we'll make it. We have so many plans as far as, like, what we want the future of Otaku Detroit to be, that if we can just keep ourselves afloat to get to that point, I have no doubt in my mind we'll be better. We'll be better off.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to, me personally, also, I'll say for me, I don't want to keep having to work a day job. I would love to be able to just have my main source of income, or my main focus be Otaku Detroit.
Yeah.
But, of course, any small business owner will tell you sometimes, like, your bills still need to be paid. So you might be doing some stuff on the side. You might be Amazon, Uber Eats, DoorDash, whatever. So I just want to get to the point where I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Because I feel like also, too, it's like a cycle. It's like a cycle.
Right,
you want to be able to put more time into, your business, but also, too, your bills still got to be paid. So, like, yeah.
Facts, man. What's something you wish you knew before stepping into that co-owner role?
That's a good one. I will say I did wish that I knew a little bit more about, as far as, like, what goes into, like, getting certain things, like, especially when it comes to, like, stuff like, because we deal with Japanese stuff a lot. So, like, sometimes, like, with getting stuff from there, because, like, when COVID first hit, there was a time where it was hard for us to get the Japanese candy and snacks because of shipping.
Right.
Because of COVID. And it really, so I wish I had known a little bit more about, like, how that trade system, I guess what you could say, works, because there was probably other things we could have probably did a little bit more, like maybe order a little bit more extra before that time period, like, because there was a time where it was hard because of, like, with COVID, shipping to other countries. It was kind of crazy, because what was happening, I guess, is that they were getting stuff sent here, but we weren't sending the shipping containers back so they can send more stuff. So it took a long time for us to get certain things, and that kind of, slow things down.
Yeah.
So, like, I would probably say when you deal with things that, for the most part, a lot of the goods and things that we have that's, made outside of the, U.S., like, we have to wait for it to get here. But realizing, like, how important it is, that things are outside of this country worked, that will affect you here.
Yeah. What's been the biggest reward of Otaku Detroit?
I will say for me, when I go to, like, an anime convention or a show or something like that, and someone recognizes me and they're like, "Oh, you guys did Ishokan. I had so much fun." That right there, that's gonna do it for me every time, because I know that lets me know that I'm helping create a memorable experience for someone. And that's really, that's all I can ask for. Yeah. Because, like I said, if you could do all that stuff, like, yes, of course, I'm not going to sit up here and say, like, I don't want to make money. Yes, of course, we all want to make money. Yeah. But if you do that, you make the memorable experiences, and you get that going, that's what the money's going to come with that.
Facts.
So that's why I try to do that, because, it's great to make money, but there's nothing wrong with, being having a good time, or, putting on a good show on the way.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Facts. It's almost like a confirmation a little bit.
Exactly.
It's almost like a confirmation, man. I bumped into a fan of the show, a sweet lady working at Speedway. And it was like, it's just a good feeling when someone tells you like they like what you did and you made an impact on them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like it's like a confirmation.
It's a good feeling to have, and and it's crazy because sometimes I feel bad because I talk about our shop, and I talk about our convention so much that there will be so many times, and if I've done this to you, I'm so sorry, but there will be times where I've talked to someone I've already talked to.
Yeah.
And I get it, because I'm like, what? There's so many people we talk to at the shop, and there's only 3 of us on the Otaku side. So I'm like, I get it. People are gonna know us and probably more than we know. So but again, it's still the same thing where I'm like, oh yeah, I go to your store all the time. Oh, thank you so much, I appreciate that. Or I went to Ishokon last year. It was so much fun. It goes back into it. So I'm like, that happens. I always have a business card with me in my car somewhere. So if I see someone, I take them with me in the shop, or if I park and I see a car with anime stickers, so if you're randomly somewhere and you see an Otaku Detroit card on your window or whatever, that's because I saw your car and assume
I'm gonna go on now after you saying that. You have never met this man before if you have never gotten one of these. But yeah, man, it's funny. Like I've talked to different entrepreneurs, people in real estate, and that's just something I've found that we kind of all share in common, man. It's like, it's the people. Like, yes, the money prolongs you being in it. You know what I'm saying? None of us have said we don't like the money. But like the people aspect of it, man, make it a whole different thing. I can't even really speak on it.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a serendipity, but it becomes the main thing.
Yeah.
And money becomes the serendipity.
Because if you think about it like this, even with the examples you said, like real estate and stuff like that, even if someone comes into my store, even if someone goes with a real estate agent and doesn't buy anything, if you still left an impression on that person, when they are ready to buy, then they'll hopefully think of you first.
Yes.
So that's what we try to do, with, our conversation or customers, because there's sometimes like with, because of the way capitalism is set up anyway, there's going to be some times where, we can't always compete with how we have to buy stuff with, maybe Amazon sometimes. And we know that.
Right.
But what we can beat Amazon with is customer service.
Facts. Wow.
So that's the the thing sometimes that trades them up, because they can do and they do it on purpose, but that's a whole nother conversation for another podcast of with stuff like that. But again, we have to be able to compete some way with people, because let's be honest, people can order this stuff from Amazon or whatever, but the selection is still a little bit better. But also too, if you have questions or a customer service, we can talk to you. We can, be there. So that's, to me, important.
The personal connection.
Exactly.
The personal connection. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. So from start to finish, man, what's the goal with Otaku Detroit?
I'm going to probably say, I'm going to preface this by saying, because I don't want to speak for my 2 business partners, but I'm going to speak for me.
Yeah.
And say, for me, the goal is to have Otaku Detroit, be the best place that anybody who is a fan of anything can come to, and they can feel safe, they can feel, secure, that and they can feel, seen. Because also too, with us being a Black-owned business, we're also a queer-owned business. So I pride myself in that, to make sure that anybody who comes in there feels welcome in there. So that's the first thing. And then I want our convention to grow to be one of the biggest in Michigan, and eventually, hopefully, the country. Yeah, is what I want to do.
Yeah,
I just want to make Otaku Detroit a place where every nerd, otaku, weeb, blerd, nerd, whatever you identify as, I want you all to be able to know that you can come there and you're gonna be good.
Wow. I respect that, man. Being a Black-owned business, it's funny. I didn't even touch it. I didn't even touch it. I didn't even think about touching it. But what's something people should know if they are black and then trying to start a business or something that they like? Like, what is something they should know kind of comes with the territory?
Just in my opinion, in my experience, I do feel like people are going to hold you to a different standard, which can sometimes be necessarily a good thing, but also too, you just have to be able to, but again, this is going to go into something that's probably a discussion for another day. But pretty much as black people, we already are kind of scrutinized a little bit more when it comes to anything we do. So when it comes to that a business too, just know that people are going to, you expect more kind of from you.
Yeah.
But also, too, you have to be able to kind of take a little bit more gruff from people, which is not necessarily that means that it's okay or that it's fair, but you just have to be able to, just know that people are probably going to, scrutinize you a little bit. So you have to just be able to rise above it. It's going to be a little harder, but to like kind of establish yourself.
Yeah.
But is of course nothing is impossible like that. Like you can do it.
You said something interesting. You said the standard. Is that higher or lower? Like people have a higher standard for you or a lower
Right,
standard?
that's the thing. See, so like
Wow.
I feel like it's sometimes kind of both, where people, and I've seen it to where, people expect you to have a certain standard that may be above an expectation.
Wow.
Just like, or sometimes people assume because it's a black-owned business that it might be lower intentionally, that they expect some things to happen. Then it's like sometimes too, like there's times where people, and I give people it because I know it was a situation. Like I said, there was a small time where technically I wasn't an owner of the shop.
Right.
But when
Right.
people there's still a lot of times where people will come in. And they don't think I'm an owner. They don't look at me as like the owner. It's like, yeah, the owner. I was talking to the other night. I'm like, oh, which one? I have to sometimes, throw that in there because, like, sometimes people are gonna, they don't expect, when you think of someone, and it's crazy to me because even though, like, when it's an anime shop, I guess, maybe I don't know, maybe I don't look like what the world conceives as like someone that likes anime, but people don't, look at me and think, will come in here and look at me and think, oh, they won't say, oh, are you the owner?
Right.
Yeah. So like, stuff like that where I feel like they're going to, look at you that way, or, you have to, what's another way I can say it? Like, you'll find yourself having to prove yourself probably a lot more.
Yeah.
Too.
Wow, that's interesting. Is that something you expected, or was that a complete shock for you?
That's kind of something I expected. Just seeing how people, interactions with, people around me in my life, like, through, real life, social media, stuff like that, just like how people are.
Yeah.
I kind of expected that.
Yeah.
What I didn't expect, though, is like when it happens, like, from other black people sometimes, like with that, like, I didn't really expect that, or like, sometimes it might come from people that like a friend or family member.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. I'm going to ask this because you've done it. How does a business go about building a community around it?
For me, it's a lot more of just like, putting yourself in the community. Like you have to do it. When there's like local events, go there, talk to people. Even if you can't get in like a vendor capacity where you can sell stuff, just print flyers and go there. And you have to put yourself out there. Networking events like how I met you, like you have to put yourself out there, even if it's not necessarily always at like people coming into your store. You have to get them in there. So I would say, like, really just putting yourself out there in the community so that you can, people can, because there's us being there for 4 years now. There's still people who live within a mile radius that'll come in still. I get people that say, oh, I never even knew you guys were here.
Yeah.
So there's always work you could do to reach people. So just put yourself out there, because there's always growth. There's always something you could be doing as far as like to introduce yourself to new people. When you go to a business, like if I go to another local business, if I have a couple extra cards, I'll, if they have a card table, leave the cards there. Like, you build it. If you know it's another small business, try and talk to the owner, like, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You gotta just, you can't be scared to, to initiate conversation. Just you gotta put yourself out there.
Facts. Is that the same answer you would have for building a brand around your business?
Oh, absolutely. That too.
Yeah.
Because you can't have a brand if people don't know who you are.
Right.
So, yeah, you definitely have to do that for both aspects because building your brand, again, people have to know who you are, but also, too, part of your brand is, part of a brand, I think, is when the subject comes up for other people that they talk about you, too.
Yeah. Yeah. How people talk about you when you're not in the room.
Exactly. Or when, like, I love, when I'm on like social media, like on my Facebook page or something, and I get a notification that someone tagged us, and it's someone saying like, "Where can I get this?" And it's one of my friends saying, "Oh, go here." Yes.
Yeah.
So or just it didn't even have to be one of my friends. I've gotten seen those notifications on a Instagram or Facebook, and it's been someone I recognize that they came in the shop. So like that stuff does help.
Yeah. I gotta ask, man, if you had to start over, what would be your first few moves?
If I had to start over, I would have made sure that, there were some, because there was a time where we did have like another business partner and it kind of didn't work out with that person. So I would have we would have, and I can probably speak for the other two when I say this, is that we probably would have been a little bit more selective.
Yeah.
Now, because of that experience, like we're definitely more guarded as far as like, it probably won't happen for a long time if someone else came, to try and, get in like that.
Yeah.
But it would just be to be a little bit more selective of who you try to involve in the business, the actual business.
Yeah. You will put up that bubble around you guys way faster. Yeah. Talk about being a co-owner, man, because I feel like a lot of people want to just do it solo. Like they kind of always want to do it solo, like be that person. But talk about the benefits of being a co-owner, and then also talk about your role as a co-owner, so you don't step on no one else's toes.
And you nailed it right there. Honestly, when you have more than one person involved, you should kind of delegate, like, who's going to do what, like who sticks more to what of it. So like Matt, he sticks to more of the business side of it. Like when it comes to like, the money, as far as like, taxes and stuff like that, the financial stuff. Angelo, my fiance, he does a lot of the like, day-to-day, more of the store. He's at the store more than me and Matt. So he kind of focuses on running the day-to-day, and like when it comes to like events, he does a lot of the like the artist planning and stuff. So like he's like the main thing. He's like the main thing. He's like the main, like organizer for a lot of the events. And like when we set up things, like he runs, like he's pretty much our communications person.
Yeah.
I'm more of like the face guy. Like I'm probably the only one that's gonna come on the podcast of the three of us. I'll just put it that way. Like I'm just more of like the making sure we have the right, what inventory and stuff we're gonna get. Like handling the customers, or dealing with like the social media and stuff too. So like that's kind of my area of expertise. Like with social media, I used to work for Google, so like with marketing and stuff like that. So I try to use a lot of my strengths for that.
Yeah.
But no matter what it is that you do, it is important, especially when you have like more than one person involved. If you want to do it solo, that's fine. As long as you can handle doing it solo, do what's best for you. But if you do have a partner, the thing that is important though is just like, making sure everyone has their main roles, and just communicating. We don't we've come to a level of trust with certain things that we can all do. We all do certain things like where we know what we can do without the other two needing to be involved.
Yeah.
And we know like certain things like, this is an all three of us conversation. So like,
wow.
we're good with that, communicating, and, we'll have like we try to have at least, if we don't all go up there, because there's some days where I'll just, even though I'm not working the shop, when I get off work, I'll go up there. We'll all go up there at the same time, and we'll chat. We try to have at least a weekly, meeting just to, touch base with each other. If there's anything we find out, or like, we learn or something we need to share with each other, we do that. But communication is just key. But you just have to build up a level of trust too, like with that. Like hopefully people wouldn't go into business with someone they don't really trust, but you have to be able to give each other some kind of leeway when it comes to like, what you guys can do without having to, if you have one person that's just a little more controlling, sometimes I don't think it works as well, because, things can happen. Like, sometimes you need to make a quick decision, things like that. So
Yeah.
it works for us, I'll say. Like, we make it work for us because we do communicate with each other. We have our group chat. We pretty much just, even if I'm only texting one of them, I just put it in there just so we all are aware. That's what we will do.
Yeah, man. Communication can save a nation. Imagine what it could do for a business.
Okay.
I got to ask, man, do you feel like taking the path you've taken as an entrepreneur is a good path?
Oh yeah, I think the path is a good path. I don't know if you mean like if I regret it too. No, I don't. If that's kind of to what you're asking.
No, I guess like if you could choose to be the entrepreneur or stay the worker inside the shop, do you feel like becoming the entrepreneur is a good path?
Oh no, absolutely. The entrepreneur, because it depends. Like if it was like something, if it was something like, if it was something that I didn't necessarily, care as much about, okay. Because even if I had like, when I could take it back to like an example when I worked at GameStop. I love video games. I like working at GameStop because it was dealing with video games. Yeah. But it wasn't paying enough. It doesn't pay enough. Now, if I could be a worker and make enough to live off comfortably, I would stay a worker. But no, it just doesn't do that. I think sometimes too, a lot of people will maybe put up with something for two reasons. It's either that they just need to be at that job because they need to make money, or it might be something that they like a lot that they don't necessarily maybe get a lot of money from, but it's because they enjoy it. And I think those are the two things. But like for me, I'm happy with taking the entrepreneur out, not necessarily just because of the money, but also just because like I like that aspect of like not really having to answer to anyone, even though like we all work together, the three of us. I'm happy with that. I just don't see me even if I wanted to, like I couldn't just sit there and just be the worker all day. Like it's too much. Yeah. It's too much. I have too many ideas and too many things that I want us to do that I could just sit there.
Yeah. As a business owner, and you touch money a lot, you touch customers a lot. As a business owner, what's more important, the money or a loyal customer?
I feel like, again, like I've been saying a few times, like the customers are going to, and I'm not just saying this because like, it's like, the right answer, but I just don't see that if you have a loyal customer, that's where the money comes from. So like I'm always pick the loyal customer because that, money up front is cool, but if you have a loyal customer, you're gonna keep getting that money again and again and again. So that's gonna always be, to answer it that way, that's always gonna be the answer for me.
What's a piece of advice you would give to other entrepreneurs out there who might be struggling, might have just had someone break into their shop, is thinking about giving up?
Lean on your community. As again, like even if you don't have like a big network, just lean on your friends. Like let them support you. But also, honestly, you just have to. I would just say, don't give up. If you really want to, be this entrepreneur, if this is something you really want to do, you gotta keep going. If you, I would, keep going until you physically cannot go anymore. Because if you give up, if you just can't, you can't. You can, at least you tried. But to give up when you could still try, no, you got to keep going, because you never know, when is your moment coming if you don't keep going.
Yeah. I'm gonna get you out of here with these last 5 questions. Technically, they don't. If you could tell your younger self, if you could give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
I would tell my younger self, let me ask you this. Is this as far as are you asking me what I would tell my younger self in general, as far as as it relates to what we're already talking about, or just in general?
Just life.
Because in life, I would tell my younger self, Terry, you...
he called you out by first name.
It's okay to you're gonna do good things, but just make sure that you take things more serious sometimes, because there's sometimes for me, I was a lot of times in my teenage years, I was unsure of what I wanted to do. But I feel like it was kind of because I didn't take everything serious. So I would tell my younger self just to make sure that, take things more serious earlier. I'm good now, but I would tell myself that.
Yeah. If you could sum up your story in 3 words, what 3 words would you choose?
My life story.
Up until this point, no pressure.
I would say for me at this point, it would be gay black business owner, I guess. 'Cause that is.
Wow.
Only 2 of those things I am not surprised about. One of them, I'll let you know. I'm just kidding. But honestly, it's crazy because I know some people probably think well, why do you what is that why does that define you? I mean, it's not necessarily that I'm gonna say that it defines me, but I mean, honestly, that's what I am. I mean, I'm a person of color. I'm a black person. I'm a gay man, so that's part of who I am. Just being owner of Otaku Detroit, that's who I am.
Yeah. I have a lot of respect for your honesty.
Yeah.
Because most people say, whenever I ask people that question, usually it's not in sentence form. You know what I'm saying? Like a I am quote. Usually it's it was this, and at some points it was this, and at some points it was this. You know what I'm saying? So, I respect your honesty. And these last questions are super light. Super light. Did you enjoy today's conversation?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've done a few different podcasts, for the show. People have asked, for certain things. So, I like this. As you could probably tell how long we've been here, I definitely don't mind talking. If you get me started on something I like, I can talk for hours, literally. Yeah. But no, I definitely enjoy my time, and I appreciate you inviting me.
People don't know this, but he had one conversation with Flash. It started with Batman, and that was 5 hours ago. It took us 5 hours to get to this moment right here. So, but no, man, is there anybody you could see being on the show in your life?
Wait, say that again.
Is there anybody you could see being on the show in your life?
This show?
Yeah.
Honestly, I can see. Actually, the reason I even met Flash and knew about this place, my friend Kamisha.
Really?
She does. Her and her fiance do the People of the POD podcast, the People of Detroit podcast.
Really? Wow.
I would like to see you guys do like a collaborative thing, because I think you're, what you guys talk about, like you have similar, vibes with the, how the podcasts go. And I just think you guys would actually feed well off each other.
Yeah.
So Kamisha, if you are seeing this, I think you, LA, and Manny should, do a collaborative podcast. I think you guys would do good.
That's perfect for the last question. Can you help us get them on?
Yeah, I can talk to her.
And just so we know, Kamisha, no disrespect, when I asked him if he enjoyed today's conversation, he tried really hard not to say this was the best one that I've been on. But on that note, Terry, it's been great.
Well, to be fair, even though that's my girl, I have not been on her podcast.
Disrespectful.
She has one. We have been featured as far as at the end of the podcast, the shop. But I myself have not been on her podcast to speak. So I can't say. I would have to technically say this is the best one, by far. Cause
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. No disrespect, Kamisha. But no, Terry, honestly, man, this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed you being on here, man. Thank you for coming out.
For sure.
Seriously.
Thank you again for having me.
Yeah.
And if you guys love anime, please check us out, Otaku Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok, or our website, otakudetroit.com. We're at 513 West 11 Mile Road in Madison Heights. That's like 11 in John R. So if you're ever, in the area, come check us out or send us a message if there's anything I can ever help you guys find.
Is there an Instagram you guys got? Facebook?
Yep, Instagram, Facebook.
What's the
it's just our store's name, Otaku Detroit. You can find us on any of those social medias, just searching our name, Otaku Detroit.
You yourself, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn?
You can find me on Facebook at my name, Terry Alexander. You'll see my picture. Other than that, I really just use the shop stuff for that, so you can find me on there. But, yeah.
Smooth. Yeah, it was great having you.